Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Mark Edwards here from the Channel Zone. Today, I'm joined by Alexandra Wilkinson. Alex is the sales director of Microsoft for public sector in both UK and Ireland. Now, Alex has an impressive resume that includes her work with some major telecoms and technology companies over the last, I think it's a 10-year period in total. Our paths initially crossed, I'm going to use that phrase, back in the day. Our paths crossed originally back in the day when Alex joined Virgin Media as a young, super enthusiastic, I'm going to put it down as a sales associate or grad recruit. I don't quite know how they termed it at the time, but I'm thrilled to have you join us here today to learn a bit more about, what you've been doing in that last 10 years, what motivates you, and perhaps more importantly, where you're going. So, Alex, welcome to the Channel Zone.
Thanks, Mark. It's great to be here. And yeah, I think it was 15 years ago, 2010, I started at Virgin. So I can't believe it's been that long. But
Yes.
yeah, in tech, 15 years now.
Yeah. Was it a grad program or just an intro, kind of sales associate? How did it? What was
it had nothing to do with sales. It was simply you had to have a degree. So I suppose it was some
grad
sort of grad
recruit? Yeah.
scheme.
Yeah.
Yes, but it was an administrative role. It was you came in, did contracts, wrote things up for the salespeople, and that's what I first came in. And it was one of those where like 200 people came to the office one day, and you had to do varying different tasks. And then at the end, they whistled it down to 10, and I was one of the 10.
Was it like it was a fake version of The Apprentice then, basically? It was one of those kind of competitive interviews?
It was, but I'd say The Apprentice, you have less people. I'd say it was more like X Factor back in the day where they put you in separate rooms and you had to see which judge walked in of whether you'd made it or not. It was more like that.
Right. Who was it? Who was interviewing on it? Any of the names that I might recall? Was John Cunningham back there? Lee Howell, maybe?
Yeah, Lee Hull interviewed Georgina Laird. There was a few others, yeah, that were
Gotcha,
around
gotcha.
then.
So
Gabe
these are
Doris, yeah,
Gabe as well. So these are
yeah.
these. So your introduction, I say your entry into sales, I would say is quite unique. Most of us, bearing in mind, I've trained thousands of salespeople over the
Hmm.
year, and part of my introduction always was I started out in life imagining that I was going to be the next Richie Blackmore. I was going to be a rock superstar, and so. But it was only when really I kind of that failed, I gave up on that and I started selling musical instruments for a living. And then from there, I pivoted into photocopier sales back this is in the 1980s. But I've often said we kind of fall into sales, or in my situation, failed into sales. I said my original goal was I failed at, and in which case moved across. I wouldn't say pivoted, fell into a role selling musical instruments, and that was my kind of introduction. Yours, similarly, in as much as you were going in one direction and then
Hmm.
chose sales, but you could have succeeded on the original path, I think. Can you just explain that a bit more to everyone?
Yes. So I did a law degree, and I remember being 13 saying, I'm going to be a barrister. That was all I said. I chose my GCSEs, my A levels, obviously my degree, with that in mind. And I could say, when you say sort of fail into sales, that definitely isn't what happened with
Mm,
me because
mm,
I really made the choice. So when I talked about landing at Virgin, I'd done my degree and was waiting to start my bar exams. And it started in the April. I can't remember the exact months, but it started in the April, and this was in the July. And
mm.
I'd obviously not lived at home for a few years, so I had to pay my way. So like I'd come from university. So then I thought I'll just get a summer job until I can start my bar exam. It was only supposed to be a summer job. So I went to this day where there's 200 people at Virgin, got the job, doing some admin, and the admin was for the salespeople. So I saw the contracts they were selling. Because obviously I'd done my law degree. I was writing said contracts, understanding them, doing the commercials, etc., and learning different bits about the business. Now I can say, would that have happened today? I'm not sure. It happened because I was in an office 9 to 5, 5 days a week, watching this happen around the office, speaking to people. So what do you do? And that was when I'd probably 3 months in thought I could go and do that. That looks really interesting. And not going to lie, at 21, 22, the money did intrigued me as well. Like, I'd lived like a student for many years. I was thinking, okay, these seem to be doing very well. I'll just do it for a little bit. And then went and spoke to the sales leadership and said, please give me a chance. And interestingly, I've carried this through all through my career. I genuinely believe my law degree is the foundation of actually my success, in that if you think about the transferable skills, and I remember saying this at 22 to the leadership team, if I think I've spent 3 years debating, mooting, so arguing points, writing contracts, using the written word to make proposals to judges, etc. If you put all that into the sales world, that means something. So I took all those things and used them. And back in the day, presenting was a big thing. We did it on a weekly basis to customers. Maybe now it's just a team Zoom call, but we did. And that was my first traction of what helped me get ahead. And within 3 months, I'd been promoted from like a junior sales manager to then getting bigger accounts. And then within a year, I was doing really well. And I had to make the decision of, am I not going to do my bar exam? So I did delay it for 1 year to start with. So I was supposed to start, like I said, I think it was the April, I think it was. And then I delayed it to the following year and said, right, I'll do 1 more year, get some money behind me, and then go back into full-time education. By that point, again, I'd gone up the rung a little bit again as salespeople. And then within a year after that, I said, no, it's not for me.
This episode of the Channel Zone podcast is brought to you by In Connection, the trusted events agency to some of the biggest names in IT. In Connection knows that in today's fast-paced world, it's not just about delivering a return on your events investment. It's about delivering unforgettable experiences. Because some events fade within hours, while others become memories that are talked about for years. In Connection, the go-to event agency for the IT channel, creating memories that matter.
And they only hold your space for 3 years. And I remember at the end of the 3 years, by then I was like the top ranking that you could get as a salesperson. And others, not like I was the top, but there was, as high as you could get in levels of an account manager and the biggest accounts, etc. And I sat down, had a cup of tea, and said, no, that's it. This is me for life now. And then I made the career path of what am I doing next, and everything I've ever done. So I've done 7 years in different places, 7 years Virgin, 7 years Vodafone Global Enterprise, and I've been at Microsoft just coming up to 6. So, and they were all by choice. So I left Virgin to go to Vodafone for the global experience because I knew that's what I was missing. And then I came to Microsoft because who doesn't go to the largest company in the world?
Well, there definitely is that. But I say it's also nice to see, as I said, if it's 15 years, was there another company involved? Was NTT on there as well at some point?
I went to NTT for 2 years. Well, I actually went to Dimension Data because Gabe was there.
Right.
So Gabe rang, said, come to Dimension Data. So got the job there. And then within 12 months of being there, NTT soaked up Dimension Data. And it completely changed the dynamic of what the role was, what the team was, what the offering was.
Right.
And that's when I made the decision to move to Microsoft.
Right. But you said it's nice to see in 15 years, as I say, maybe 4 companies, you've risen within those. It's quite common nowadays for people to kind of move jobs every couple of years, maybe move companies. I don't think that would have ever worked for myself. And it's nice to see, as I said, we see somebody with some consistency. And if you can progress through the companies, and it looks like you've had a variety of roles, so you've made a good fist of it. So congratulations on that. You stood out, by the way, as I said, when I was delivering the training for Virgin Media back then. I mean, it was just on enthusiasm alone, and it's lovely to see 15 years later you still have that. Same enthusiasm. We'll have to see how you are 15 years from now, and let's see. My guess is it'll still be there. So listen, I see lots of posts on LinkedIn I would say come under the heading of women in tech. Now, you are a woman, and you are a woman in tech, and so perhaps for myself and perhaps for many others as well, because I see that term, women in tech. But what can you inform us with regards to what is it? Is it a movement? Is it something more solid? What does it do, and where is it going, perhaps?
Oh, that's a big
Oh,
question. And I think
mm,
I am involved by way of being a woman in tech. And I do try and support, and I suppose I sometimes actually come from the core of me being from a working class background, northern. There's actually other barriers as well as the woman thing. So
right,
I sort
yes,
of just focus on how do we make sure that there's opportunity for everybody? It doesn't necessarily have to be a woman thing.
right.
But then one thing I did when I thought about today, one point that I feel is why get into tech, why do I stay in tech, etc., is I actually think tech is really good for women in terms of work-life balance. There
Mm,
is barely a job where you could be successful, earning very well, independent, and have so much control over your own diary and where you're going, especially now with remote working, etc., that it has really done wonders for me. If I think the opposite could have been, I have a baby and then 6 months later have to be in court 5 days a week, get on the train. Like, how do you make that work?
yeah,
This has actually offered me a life I didn't even think was possible. So when I speak to women about coming into tech and it's male dominated, etc., which I did do some stat checking before this, that
right.
it is still, it's still 70% men. But that's getting better. But then there's another conversation about 50% of women leave the tech sector at around 35. Can't be a coincidence. That's about the age when we start
Childbearing,
considering
is it?
children. Yes. So then the leadership, when you get to leadership, it's less than 14%. So it does make a difference. So there's another conversation about women and motherhood and how that, but women in tech, I think it's a brilliant opportunity for us. And it has completely changed my life. And so I do go, like I said, I go to various events and I try and speak and say how great it is because I've had some amazing women leaders in my life, and I genuinely don't think I'd be where I am if I hadn't seen someone else forging that path before me.
Yes. You think
I
that's
just thought,
important? As you said, you need to have that. Perhaps it is. When I was working in the music shop, I met the guy who owned the shop. His brother-in-law came in, a guy called Steve Dawes. He drove up in a BMW. He walked in, blue suit, white shirt, red tie. I'd never met somebody like him before. But after 5 minutes conversation with him, because I knew that he was very successful, he'd left Wales. He's from Cardiff. He'd gone to London to work for Rank Xerox. But 5 minutes was all it took for me talking to him for me to kind of put myself in his shoes and say, I think I could do that. I needed to see somebody that I could relate to and think, if he can do it, I can do it too. I think you're saying the same thing, aren't you?
yeah, absolutely. And it goes, like I said, it goes back as well to the northern thing as well. Like, I suppose I could ask
Are
you,
you from? Are you? Oh, I'm sorry.
who'd
I
have
needed
thought?
just need to check.
The accent definitely gives it away. And I suppose I could ask you, do you know many director level people in southern multinational global companies that sound like me? No, there isn't that many. So I think
No,
the northern thing, but I would come into use your uniqueness as well as being a woman is unique in the tech sector, and I've used that to my advantage over the years, and using the northernness where now if someone says whether it's customers I've worked with or old companies or just even in Microsoft at the moment, they'll go, Alex, the northern one,
correct.
and I am known for that. So yeah, use your uniqueness to be you.
Yes, it's lovely though also that you didn't feel inclined at any point to mute it, to turn it down, or to try. It said it's the authentic
I did
you.
when I was younger. I did
Right.
actually I went to allocution lessons for
Elocution
six
lessons.
months. It didn't work.
Right.
So yeah, I did try when I was younger. And even now it's still there a little bit. The insecurity, the imposter syndrome doesn't go away.
I think it will go. I
But
think my guess is to give you a few more years, and so I can empathise with so much of what you're saying because I've regarded myself as 6'3", red-headed Welshman with one eye. It's not so the hair's not so red anymore. I was a bright ginger child, but I've always felt that my brother same accent, but he always felt his accent held him back. He worked in
mm,
pharmaceuticals. For me, I think my Welsh accent has been part of the reason why I've been successful, and also I was able and have been able to work all over the world. I've been to the Far East. I've been to all sorts of countries. Right? But the Welsh accent seems to engage people, perhaps as I would have said a Northern
yeah,
accent does. there are variations of northern
Yeah.
accents, of course, and you could probably you're blessed with one that kind of works. And so I changed two words. These sticking out the side of my head. If I spoke to somebody in Swansea, these are called years, not
Oh, okay.
ears, and the other one was tooth, not tooth. So those
Yeah.
two words I basically had to adjust because people would look at me a little bit stupid when I talk about my years, meaning these. So
Yeah.
slight adjustment there, but I said a combination. I say you're stacking a lot of what could have been seen, as you said, a woman in tech, and from up north, all of those you could have seen as being disadvantages, but I think you've stacked them in a way where they actually they kind of help make you, so they're advantageous.
Yes, I'd say so. Age, another thing as well. I mean, you can probably picture when we talked about coming into sales, you have to remember you were probably my first introduction to sales. I was a bookworm, really studious, law degree, nothing salesy at all. And then the first intro I had was got the job, and then they sent me on a 6 week course with you to go and learn
Right,
how to be a salesperson. So
right.
I didn't know what I was doing, but I. You might be able to remember, try and picture me in that room. I was probably the youngest person in that room. And
But
then,
even if you were the youngest there, my guess is you were probably the most curious and the most
yeah,
interested. And those a quote I picked up many years ago from a guy called Jay Tyler. He said, "When you lose your curiosity and interest, particularly in sales, it's all over." So curiosity and interest, I think, are
I'd
perhaps
agree.
really valuable traits. And you had them then, and you've still got them
Yeah, and
now.
that's what's
So
probably kept me going. Where when people meet me, like, oh, Alex's energy, and it's never false. It's genuinely, I'm still driving. I'm still going. I still
yes,
want this every day.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I think that will continue. It's definitely, even having two kids, I'd say it'd be the thing that I remember after my second, I said that, and at that point, I would have had two under four, two under five, and I said my ambition from being young was like a fire that lit me up every day. After two kids, when two of them not sleeping, etc., it was like a tiny little flame that lived inside my heart, but it was still
Right.
there. It was just dampened a little bit. But now they're getting older, and my youngest just started reception. It's coming back out now, and I can feel it again, and then that excites me. And yeah, I'm
Yeah.
going to use all those advantageous
And,
things.
and and it's great, as I said, if you go with the role model approach as well, my guess is younger women in tech will see what
Mm.
you're able to do, and again, and that is something that they can work towards. How do you? Because you've done stuff, as I said, even actually, I think again, if I look on LinkedIn, there'll be you've done some kind of fireside chats or whatever
Mhm.
conferences. Well, how do Microsoft support this women in tech element, and or then how do you evolve it within Microsoft as one of the world's largest corporations?
Yeah. As you can expect, Microsoft, with its culture globally and what it's known for, is super supportive. If I think the whole time I've worked at Microsoft, I've only ever worked for a woman. So if that does that, I've worked for some amazing female leaders. I work for one now who's incredible, and that shows that they are living and breathing it. And we have a women's networks and we support. And then within that, because obviously I've had a baby while at Microsoft, I sort of lent into what we call maternity returnity program, which is how do we support women going off work and coming back to work. And I love that. I love like the coaching, the talking, the realness of it. I mean, literally you can, I had it last week. I had one this week actually on Tuesday, yesterday. A woman ring me in tears, being honest, being like, oh my God, my baby has not slept for a week. I have been back at work 3 months. I cannot do this.
Mm,
Just to be have that real conversation, you can do this. It's fine. We've all been there. And at the end, she said, I'm just so glad I felt like it was just me, that I was the only one struggling and failing.
mm, mm.
And that is not true. So I really enjoy that element that Microsoft do give me the space to be able to explore that and do better. And the same as, I have the space to go to HR and say, if we tweak this a little bit, women will feel more supported and they listen. So yeah, that is one bit of my job, like sort of outside job that I really enjoy.
Yeah. Does it is it the same elsewhere within the tech industry? Do you think, or is maybe Microsoft perhaps at the leading edge here? They kind of a vanguard of women in tech.
I think it's getting there. And I think, like I said, I think I was young when I got into it. So if I think of my first child I had when I was at Vodafone, and there wasn't women my age in sales and having babies. So it was sort of a bit strange when it came about. But everyone was really super supportive. Everyone was there to go, what do you need? But it just wasn't, there wasn't a woman there I could turn to and go, oh, you went off last year. What was your experience? Oh, I have these questions. And that was my first baby as well. And I'm just making sure at Microsoft, any woman who has that feeling, they know exactly who to phone, which is normally me.
Right,
So
right. I've got a daughter. She's in tech. She's a daughter in tech, a woman in tech, still under 30 years of age, just. But interesting. Again, similarly to yourself, she's working. She now has a role. Her woman is her boss, and her boss is then she's going on maternity leave shortly. So
yeah,
for many. As I said, it's not necessarily part and parcel for the men in tech. Although I believe there are people that take paternity leave now,
yeah.
though, isn't it? Is that? I mean, I might have taken a couple of days off, I think, and to be honest with you, that probably suited me down to the ground. I don't know if I could have done with 2 weeks or 2 months or even more.
Yeah, it's like 3 weeks now.
Did James take any time? Does he, your husband, did he take paternity
Yeah,
leave?
yeah, but you get 3 weeks now. So yeah, he took the 3 weeks. And yeah, he was there and involved. And for anyone watching this, I suppose James also works in sales. So we're very lucky to have flexible jobs that we could, right, if you're going away Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm going Thursday, Friday, makes it much easier.
Yes.
I can't imagine if like I have a friend who's a GP, and she has to go to work every day. She's got 3 kids and she has to go to work every day. Like that must be so hard to manage. So I do feel blessed that we both have that
Yeah, no, as
flexibility.
I said, it's certainly worked out well, and you couldn't have imagined it to be that way. Much of it is due to lockdown. I don't want to go back 5 years into that whole shenanigans, but the reality is, I think we would have got to this point, okay, because things like Teams and Zoom had been introduced and the workplace was changing, but the huge transformation with hybrid working was accelerated by a factor of 10, I would have said. So we would probably have got there, but it might have taken us another maybe 10 years to get there now. Although, is it not the case? I think a lot of companies, maybe it's the same with yourselves at Microsoft. You now want to get people back into the office. You want to get them back in the office and back in front of customers. Maybe back in front of customers more important than back into the office.
Yeah, and that never really stopped, to be fair. But we've always been like, I run a sales team, and yeah, they should be out and customers. If I saw them in the office 5 days a week, I'd be like, where are your customers? Do they not want to see you? Why am I seeing you so much? So
Yeah.
yeah, you should be back out there. And Microsoft, no, they're still like super supportive of remote working. And if you think that there's always something, like I go to London most weeks because there'll be some reason for me to be there, but I wouldn't just be there just to sit in the office. And I think we all know now as well, I am way more productive at home. When I go to the office, I'm a chatterbox. I just end up having coffee and speaking to people all day. Get a lot
Yes.
more done at home. So I need the balance. But look at what I said about if I was 22 now and I couldn't go in an office 5 days a week and see what salespeople were doing, would I have ended up where I am? So I
Mm,
worry more about the younger people now who are sat in their
correct.
bedrooms on the
Yes.
phone 9 hours a day.
Yes.
We need to
Yes.
think about
There were people that will have done their degrees and not had a
that.
university
Yeah.
to go to. They will have been sat in rooms, and then, as I said, when starting work, they will have been maybe 1 day a week in the office. I don't know. I wouldn't want to forego. Again, my back in my day, where the sales office was, you could smell it and hear it from a
Yeah.
hundred paces. Lots of coffee, lots of cigarettes, and lots of swearing, as it was back then.
Yeah.
But well, as I say, it was perfectly suited to that time. Listen, thanks ever so much for the insight on women in tech. I'm also intrigued, though, with your involvement with the National Literacy Trust. Now, in looking into the National Literacy Trust, I believe its aims are to transform lives through literacy. And literacy, it seems to say reading, writing, speaking, and listening, which
Hmm.
again were fantastic traits for anyone in sales. But put sales to one side. How did you get involved with the National Literacy Trust, and where does this go with you? What are you doing?
Yeah. So I got invited to get involved actually through a contact at Manchester City Council. I was doing some work with them, and obviously they knew I was local, etc. And then when I started looking into it, and I was involved in, women in tech stuff. I've done some stuff with like domestic violence in the past, and so I'm always looking at what's gonna, energize me and something I'm put a bit of me into. And when this came up at first, you're like, oh, reading. But then when I really started to look into it, and it goes back to what I said, it's not about women, it's not about being northern, it's not about any of those things, it's about opportunities. And 1 in 6 adults in the UK are partly illiterate. And if you think
Right.
it's not about can you read something, it's about confidence, employability, participating in society, reading road signs, etc. Like it affects every element of your life. And there was children coming up because of COVID as well. So I got involved about 18 months, 2 years ago, coming up, as well as, if you think about
Mm.
immigration as well, there are children, and we did set up a centre in Salford actually, which is to help people that, English is their second language and they're trying to learn it and read it and, be involved in our country and get jobs, etc. So how can we help them? So that was another bit that really intrigued me. But the child bit did, because it was also proven that children that read more have better mental well-being.
Right.
And it was, if you read 10 times a day, you're 10 minutes a day, you are 3 times more likely to have better mental health.
Mm.
And that's reading for pleasure, which I do. Anyone ever needs a book recommendation, I've got plenty. I love reading as well. So that obviously did intrigue me. But I think if we look at mental health, if we look at confidence, employability, there's not a bit of life that it doesn't really involve. So I thought I could do something here. So that was
And,
when I
and
got involved.
and what do they ask you to do then? What is the is it just intermittent from time to time, or have you got more of a strategic role there?
Yeah, so I'm on the board. I've got a board meeting tomorrow actually. So go on the board, and it's literally how do we impact more lives as quick as possible?
Right.
And there's no stupid ideas. So from a Microsoft perspective, I think about how blessed I am that, when you listed the things like listening, reading, etc., one that you missed are huge digital skills. Like you can't engage in the digital world without being able to read, write, interact, etc. So I'm thinking, how can I use my Microsoft software, etc.
Right.
skills to help that? I'll give an example, for instance. I went
Please.
to a sixth form and did a speech, and it was about women in tech, and it was a bit about national literacy, a bit about everything. It was like there was multiple women there to speak to try and inspire the next generation. And one thing that came up was the fact of they were still writing their assignments down for computer science. This was A level, were writing them down. So I get into it, and someone said it in passing. I said, "Why?" She's like, "Oh, I can't type." I said, "What?" So then another go, "Oh, I can't type either, and I can't use that thing, a mouse."
A
Right? So
mouse.
I was like, and I think we all have this view that the next generation is so techy. Oh, we
Yeah.
don't. Oh, the super techy. No, so I got speaking to these girls that they're 16 to 18, and they said, oh, yeah, on my phone like this, I can go really, really quick and do all that. This can't do it. And they were like, one of them said she went for a Saturday job at a dentist to get the reception job to book appointments and stuff. And she didn't get the job because they showed her the computer and said, okay, show us how you book an appointment. She couldn't type on the thing or use the mouse to make it work. And she didn't get the job. And I thought, this is the next generation coming into the workplace that we presume are going to be able to use Excel and Outlook. I asked, have you never sent an email? Why would I send an email? I'd just send an Instagram message.
Right.
Like, oh, right, okay. So that was my other thing with the National Literacy Trust, where there's a whole reading, writing, digital literacy thing as well. And that isn't an age thing. We have an older population as well who you don't want them to be banking now makes it harder, etc. How do they
Mm.
stay involved in
Mm.
society?
Mm.
So yeah, it's I'm very passionate about all areas of society and the opportunity that it brings.
No, it's super. Well, it's impressive and inspiring. I'm sure that some of the people listening and watching us here now. So, well done on those. Long may it continue. I'm conscious of your time. You still are a
No, no,
Microsoft
it's fine.
problem.
Well, I'll give a little plug then. National Literacy Trust, people get involved. And when you say what Microsoft do, yeah, there's the digital skills there. But actually, one thing I did last year was a book drive, which was I asked every single employee who works for Microsoft UK to bring me a book. And just anything that's there. And some people bought like 30. But everyone bought a book, and I ended up with a lot of books, like thousands. And I put them all in my car and I took them to National Literacy Trust. And the aim for those books was to go into children's hospitals up and down the country. So when children are going through treatment, the escapism, imagination of a
Yes.
book can help that go a bit better, as well as the adults who were sat there for hours on end in a waiting room, waiting for the child worried, had something to read. And that really resonated with me. And so there's
Yeah.
things where Microsoft, it's not just about the tech skills, we actually did something physical to help the charity. So
Yeah,
yeah,
but it took it took you making the request ultimately, but the people within Microsoft responded.
yeah.
Are you aware then of? I think it's Dolly Parton in the US. I think Dolly Parton has a colossal book program. She has no children herself, and so I think, and she has an incredible wealth. But I can't remember what the numbers are. But it's colossal, millions of books every year to children. Because as you said, for somebody who reads a lot, I would regard myself as a kind of autodidact. I didn't go to university, so I'm self-educated. So books have been basically my source for information and knowledge. We're in a different period now because, as I said, what I can get on the smartphone is quite extraordinary. But a world without books is not much of a world. That's for sure. Okay. So I think you're doing great things there. So look, let's begin to wrap things up. I've got one question to you, though, slightly left field. We mentioned it when we spoke recently, but our sponsor of the podcast this season, In Connection, they're a hospitality company. So what I'm asking all of our guests in this series, I want to be quite specific here. I want you to pick out maybe your favorite or most memorable hospitality type event. So be it a President's Club, customer hospitality event. My God, I bet you've been to some incredible events over the years, or maybe even a dedicated partner event. Does anything come to mind?
Does it have to be work related?
Yes.
Oh, right, okay.
Well, what's the alternative then, or is it, what would it be then?
I was going to say getting married. If that isn't the biggest event that's ever been organised, I had an event planner like of my life, and I don't know what it is. And then it leads me on to say, if you want to ask me the most important decision you'll ever make in your life, isn't your career, it's your life partner. That is something I stand by.
You are absolutely right on that, and I may use that. I may go with it. But let's have. What about the on a work related one? What about honors clubs? Did you go on presidents' clubs? You must, or do they just so? Do you get to the point in your career where they just so meh? You know what I mean? Oh, Hawaii again.
They're probably not like they used to be. When I was at Virgin, I won the one to South Africa. But then there's a story that I didn't actually end up going because it was 5 nights and it was really far away and they wanted us to sleep in a tent. Like, look, maybe for some people, but I was young and I wanted a hotel. Anyway, didn't end up going. But I'd already been to South Africa. I went there for a month to watch cricket. Love cricket. So I'd already been there for that. So, but yeah, no, if I actually think in recent times as well, Microsoft do amazing ones. And I'm going to stick, obviously, I've been to Seattle and been to those ones. We had one in Orlando recently, but I'm actually going to pick a UK one because, yes, we had it at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which is incredible.
The new stadium.
The new stadium. And it is amazing, like leather seats that everywhere, like the inside, it's got like the Amazon Go, so like there's snacks and beer and all that. You don't actually see a human. It is really, really well done. And they had 5,000 of us there, and it was well run. And then at night on the pitch, they cleared the pitch and they made it like a festival. So it had a stage. We had Sophie Ellis-Bextor, Kaiser Chiefs, and then they had like fairground rides, popcorn, and it was a great vibe. So that was only 2 years ago, and it was one of the best, kickoffs that I've been to.
Spectacular. I mean, that's and it's, I've heard of others. I think isn't there a Salesforce one which takes place in
Vegas?
I think it's San Francisco. Okay. I think Dreamforce. I think it might be called, where they have. I think on occasion they had something like Metallica playing. They also had, I think, the Killers. I mean, these are the world's top acts. Performing effectively for kind of tech audiences. So brilliant. As I said, it's maybe, if you think about it, we're probably a little bit spoiled because if you work in tech, you do get an opportunity to go to those type of events. They kind of are quite regular. But I mean, interesting to hear the specificity of it. I'm not too sure about the Tottenham because I'm more of Arsenal than a Tottenham supporter. But there we go. I would probably enjoy an occasion. So if you do go to one of those again, Alex, and you have a spare seat, and it's down south, do let me know. I'll be more than happy maybe to
Yeah.
pay you
Well,
a
it's
visit.
different now. When you say like we have been blessed, and when I was younger in my 20s, I used to love it when it came up the different ones because it's true there's been ones in Vegas, at Seattle. Like you
Yes,
got to go to some amazing places. But it's interesting, as you know, with kids now, when something comes through that says got a 5-day event in
right.
America, all I think is, oh my God, who's going to watch the kids? Oh my God, I'm going to have to do so much washing before I go, and they've got
Correct,
PE and then
correct.
assembly. So it's a bit different. So I'm saying if you're young and in sales, enjoy every second of it.
Yeah, and my son, who is in his 30s, but he lives in the US, he lives in North Dakota, but he's just gone to Vegas for his first kind of trade show
Love
there.
it.
But for him, he's got 4 children, ranging from 10 to just over 1. So his whole thing was he's just looking forward to sleep.
Sleep. Yeah. That's what I do, to be fair, when I go. It's all about sleep. And the same as like I said, I go to London probably once a week and I'll stay over so I'm away from my children. But I work harder than I ever did in my 20s because I say, if I'm going to be away from my children and I'm making that sacrifice, I'm going to make it count. I'm going to work hard. You know, I go and see people, network, relationships, and yeah, it's hard going, but I make it worth the while being away, and that's the balance we're all trying to find.
No, Alex, fantastic. Thanks for joining us. You are truly an inspiration. So congratulations on your 15 years and on your wonderful family. So
Yeah,
I look forward to. We'll catch up again. If you do come down south quite regularly, maybe you should
I
we
do.
should we should meet up in town. I'm only 30 miles outside of London. That'd be great. Thanks for joining us on the show here today. Much appreciated, and look forward to catching up with you at some point in the not too distant future. Until then, all the best.
Thanks, Mark. Bye.